Hello, everyone. So, I was just thinking about the character of Robert Baratheon, and it's just interesting how he's always talking about the past. It's always about nostalgia. And you see, there's actually two Roberts who exist. There's the young Robert, who some people have made some really good artistic representations of that. And he's charging Rhaegar Targaryen, and he's got his hammer, and he's fit, and he's very strong. And then you have the Robert who in Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, and he's out of shape. He's just always indulging in pleasures and reminiscing the past. He clearly knows that he was in a better position when he was younger. And it's just, I find interesting because it made me think about, if you think about it, all the heroes in mythology, Achilles and all that, it's these guys, they don't actually live that long. And I think there's a reason why they don't live that long. It's because being this kind of heroic figure, it's such a intense way of living where you're living to your maximum, but you kind of burn out after a point. You can never reach that point again. In order to be the perfect hero, you actually have to be slain while you're the perfect hero, because you'll actually outlive it. It almost reminds me of that quote, I think, from I think The Dark Knight, where Two-Face, before he becomes Two-Face, he says you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Except it's not necessarily that you become a villain, it's more so just that you age. You're not what you used to be, and it's very interesting. It almost gives that kind of vibe of, if you're gonna be a hero, and you're gonna live past those years when you can be this kind of heroic figure, then you actually have to kind of naturally develop into the kind of wise old man archetype. And that's how you kind of continue to be a hero as you get older. You have to become the wise old man. You have to be someone like Gandalf. You have to, like Yoda. You cannot just stay. The hero is a very cool archetype and all that, but you cannot permanently remain in that state. You kind of have to just evolve into that next stage, the wise old man. And Robert, he doesn't succeed to do that. He's a hero at one point, and then he's just a shell of what he was. You can see one of the things he would have needed to do to become the wise old man is take the advice of people who are, of course, older and wiser than him, like Jon Arryn, and someone who he trusts, not necessarily older, but someone he trusts, which is Ned Stark. So he's open to hearing people's opinion, but you see, with Ned Stark, he only really takes their opinion if it's an opinion he already agrees with. So he's not really becoming wise in the sense that he's trusting these people. Of course, he should be making the judgments himself, but he does also need to not get mad when people tell him something he doesn't like. And you see with Ned Stark, he gets so mad at him when Ned Stark tells him, "Do not kill Daenerys Targaryen." He still has this kind of bombastic, I have to be right about everything mentality that he probably developed in his young age of being this heroic figure. And it makes sense if you were like Robert, he was just doing so well and all that. He, of course, should be making judgment calls. That's part of being wise, is to know, okay, what's the right decision. But he shouldn't be just shutting people down like he does to Ned Stark. A good example, actually, of someone who demonstrates a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about is Robb Stark. If you look at it, Robb Stark, kind of like Robert, the young Robert, I should say. And it actually makes sense, he's actually named after Robert. But Robb Stark, he's winning all the battles. He's young. He's a good fighter. He's doing these very brave things, deciding to do the execution himself, like Ned Stark would have. So he's really living this life of the hero. But kind of like these mythological heroes, he doesn't live very long. He dies in the prime of being a hero, and that's shows that kind of idea that heroes, they don't live too long. Robb could have actually potentially developed into the wise old man given some more time, because he definitely has a crowd. He has a lot of people he listens to. Of course, he doesn't always listen to them. He kind of starts ignoring what Caitlyn has to say to him, but he does have the ability to listen. So I think he potentially could have, given the chance, developed into the wise old man. But so then that's kind of interesting, because it's like Robert survived that stage of being this brave heroic hero, but he couldn't develop into the wise old man, so he became a shell. Whereas Robb Stark could have potentially developed into the wise old man, but he died in the midst of being a hero, which is a fate that for Robert preferably would have maintained kind of some of his identity. He would have been he would have gone down known as this brave warrior, whereas he ended up being known as kind of a king who couldn't control himself in many ways. Thank you for watching this video to the end. That helps with the algorithm immensely. Same with people who like this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, feel free to counter my argument and debate each other in the comments. Goodbye.